Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Make sure he doesn't fall off. There we go. Stay there, buddy? Okay. Today I have 15 glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. Lots of good stories as always, but my favorite one actually involves the gospel. It's a nice twist, you'll see. Case file 3231, written by No Slip Condition, 5 steps into the library. I wear glasses. I can sort of see okay without them, and I'm even legal to drive without them. In any case, I wear my glasses to class to be able to see the board without having to sit in the front of the class. I usually wear them whenever I go out though, because hey, it's nice to see stuff far away. So anyways, one night, I left my apartment to head to the library to study a bit. About halfway there, I see a girl that I think I know on the other side of the street, but I'm not sure if it's her, and I have to squint to see her face. Oh crap, I left my glasses on my desk. I reach up and rub my eyes to see a little clearer. It wasn't her. I didn't need my glasses to study, and I was perfectly okay to go on without them, so I just kinda shrugged it off. It would take 5 minutes to go all the way back to class, and I decided that I would be alright walking without my glasses for one day. A few minutes later, I ran into a kid from one of my project groups and we talked for a bit, and I continued to the library. It was a pretty cold night, and the library was obviously heated, so I opened the door and walk in. About 5 steps in the door, my fucking glasses fog up. They were all just of a sudden on my face. I know for a fact they weren't there before. I just rubbed my eyes on the street, and I would have known if there were glasses in the way. On top of that, I know my eyes pretty well. I would be able to see a face across the street with my glasses on. I was so mind-flucked that I didn't get any studying done, and ended up going home without getting any work done. A little later, I texted the kid I ran into and asked if he remembered if I was wearing my glasses when we talked. He said he was pretty sure I wasn't. Right, so we all know about DOP and reappearing items. To have them reappear without them actually disappearing, or at least you weren't aware they disappeared, maybe you didn't forget them, maybe you had them on, then the universe bugged out. While they were on you, you didn't quite notice them disappearing, and when you went to rub your eyes, they weren't there, and then they reappeared later on when the error correction code kicked in. I think that's what happened. Longtime viewers will know I've had DOP events where just involving tennis balls. 2 tennis balls so far, 2 happened twice. They never came back, but nothing anything like this. A DOP event like this where it's on your body. You lose it and then it comes back. Even if it wasn't a DOP event, but a reappearance. These were your glasses, presumably, with your correct prescription. So let's say you did forget them at school. They didn't disappear, but they appeared on your face later. Maybe they disappeared from there. What if there's a copy in your school, so this is a duplication event? But why would they appear on your face directly, not around you? Normally items appear around the person or in spots that they frequent. This is very specific. It definitely makes me think that this is error correcting code. Case file number 3232, written by Soltheron, The Bull's Revenge. Way back in 3rd grade or so, someone in my class had a birthday party. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa lived way out in the woods in a dead end that was surrounded by trees. It was a very dark area in general, and all the kids were freaked out by how dark it was. We were all bored from the indoor activities, so we started daring each other, and some people took turns to run around the house all alone, which was scary as fluck. Around this time, Lisa told us about their shack and how they used to own a bull that they kept there. The bull had been a weird one, easily startled and prone to short bursts of temper tantrums for apparently no reason. One day, the bull had died, and after an examination, the veterinarian could not explain why. They had been taking good care of the bull, and he had deemed healthy several times before by veterinarians all across. Since we were kids, we were obviously kind of frightened by her story, and some went back inside, but Lisa laughed it off and claimed there was nothing to be afraid of. Lisa and her friend then decided to call the rest of us chicken while walking up to the shack. At this point, I was standing by the stairs to her house, and there were lights around the house and shack, so I had a very clear view of what happened next. Lisa's friend was laughing to herself as they moved up to the shack when she started opening the gate, which was a type that opens upwards, like a garage door. She opened the gate until it was almost all the way up, and that piece of information is important. The gate was above her, and then she looked like she was hit by something hard. She screamed loudly. Her scream was one of those screams where halfway through it, you can hear the agony in her voice because it flutters into a deeper moan instead of a shrilling sound. I can explain this so clearly because I have replayed the situation in my mind 1,000,000 times. She fell over and passed out while Lisa started screaming in fear and calling for help. I ran inside at this point, scared out of my wits, calling for Lisa's parents to go outside and help them. It doesn't take long before parents arrive and start picking up their kids, and I leave without seeing either of the girls again. After the weekend, I had thought about the entire situation so much that I had barely slept, and I had come to the conclusion that the girls must have tricked me. I decided to laugh it all off with them as a great prank. I arrive at school, and I seek out the birthday girl. I'm about to start laughing with her when I see her friend, who, by the way, was a daughter of the swim coach and very physically fit. Her leg was in a cast. She had broken her damn leg, and she was waltzing around in crutches for 6 months after the incident. I know what I saw that night, and there was nothing physical that hit her that any of us could see. It was not the gate that hit her, because it was already above her. There were lights around the shack, so the darkness was not the problem. There was nothing there. I asked her later what the hell had happened, but she couldn't tell me. The only thing she remembered was that there was a gust of wind and then a mind-numbing pain in her leg as if something hit her. Later on in life, 3 of my friends saw impossibly fast UFOs when they were drunk, and I can readily ignore that as some kind of figment of their imagination or some type of phenomenon. But my own event, I cannot for the life of me figure out what happened to that girl on that night. The experience has been with me my entire life, making me second-guess myself when it comes to supernatural anecdotes now and then. So, a spirit of a bull rampaging out of its pen, basically, and it adds to the point that spirits can be corporeal, and they can be animals too. That means that they can interact with the physical world, at least to some extent, in this case enough to knock a person over, or even up in the air, and break their leg or damage it. Wild. Imagine you had a ghost matador and a ghost bull. You just need a ghost stand, and you're all set. Case file 3233, written by Airhorn, son of Foghorn. No plate, no past. I was 16, and driving home alone after a week at the beach with family and friends. I was on back roads in the country, middle of nowhere, with an occasional little hick town popping up every 40 miles or so. I heard bad noises from under the hood, warning lights came on, and the car stopped working. I pulled up to the shoulder and looked under the hood to find a belt that was all split and frayed and had almost completely disintegrated. I started looking through my phone, trying to think of who to call, when a little car pulled up behind me. It was an old lady, maybe 70, wearing a white dress, almost like a wedding dress. This was North Florida in the middle of July. She got out of the car and then reached into her back seat to get something. When she walked up to the car, I saw it was a belt. Later I learned it was a serpentine belt. I don't know crap about cars, and that they come in a variety of sizes for different cars. She just looked at me, smiled, and got under the hood and started tearing out the old belt and replacing it. I'm dumbfounded. I started to try to make small talk and ask questions, but she didn't say anything while she worked. A few minutes later, she finished, took my hands in hers, looked me in the eyes and said, "I was watching you. We all need help from time to time, Airhorn." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing as I tried to figure out how I knew or had seen this old lady who had just called me by my name and happened to have the exact same part that just broke down on my car. I hadn't stopped anywhere since I left the beach house. I had never seen her before. She went back into her car and drove away, back the same way she had come from. Her car had no license plate. Case file number 3234, written by Senior Star 8500. The Green Strap Mystery. For context, I am a size 6.5. No one else in my family, or my boyfriends, is this size. No girlfriends of my brothers, and no one wears Birkenstocks in my family, plus my boyfriend's family, besides me. Okay, so, about 2 years ago, I bought off-brand Birks called Odolese. The straps were dark green. I wore them in. They became very comfy and beat up. I tossed them out. For my birthday this year in February, I asked for real Birkenstocks. My brother got them for me. The straps were also a dark green, but on brand. These shoes are so uncomfortable until you break them in. They'd constantly give me blisters, but I knew if I kept wearing them, they would stop. Fast forward to July this year. My boyfriend and I take a trip out of town, and of course I bring my Birks. We're walking around and I say out loud, I think I finally broke my shoes in. They're so comfy now. We get back to the Airbnb and go to sleep. I leave them downstairs, wake up the next morning, and go to put my shoes on. Green, strapped Odolese? Huh? Whose shoes are these? I brought my Birks. I don't own these anymore. I was so confused. I immediately called my mom and was like, somehow they're my size and they fit you? She said no. Cool. So now I'm confused. My real Birks, that were a gift, are gone. Someone, somehow, switched shoes with me. How though? I've never taken them off in public when my shoes could get misplaced. A week passes. I'm still just as confused, but oh well, what can I do? Until I get a phone call from my mom. You'll never believe this. I woke up this morning and your Birkenstocks are next to my bed, as if I took them off and hopped right in bed. I said a few, what the flux? And went to grab them. Mind you, my mom's house is haunted as hell, so I will not go into her room. So how did they get there, and where did these old shoes that I threw away come from? Case file number 3235, written by Safitira. Circling to Weylen. I had a doctor's appointment, and since my car recently broke down, I had to take the bus instead. I was waiting at the stop. The bus was running late when suddenly, a woman came across and stood next to me. She looked quite well dressed, wearing a suit. We didn't speak until my bus arrived. The only bus that departs from that stop is bus 204, which only runs once every third hour. Normally, the ride to Weylen, I'll use a fictional town name used here for privacy reasons, takes about 20 minutes. I got on the bus while the woman stayed outside and shouted, "Does this bus go to Weylen?" The driver gave both of us a strange look and said, "No." I looked again. It clearly said 204, towards Weylen. All the passengers were staring at me oddly. I got off again, confused. The woman said, "Don't worry, the other one will be here any minute." I checked the schedule and there were no other buses coming soon. But sure enough, another bus, 204, arrived less than a half minute later. It didn't say Weylen on the sign, but it still was bus 204. I hesitated, then got on. The bus was completely packed. There were exactly 2 free seats, one for the woman in the suit and one for me. I asked her if she was sure this bus went to Weylen. "Yes," she said, and we set off. She only stayed on for one stop before getting off again. The bus then drove in circles for about an hour, out of town and back again. People got on and off until eventually I was the only passenger left. After that, it circled around town for a couple more minutes before the bus finally went to Weylen. During this, no one got on or off. The woman herself didn't even go to Weylen, even though she was the one who had asked the driver about it earlier. I've taken this bus several times before, and the trip normally takes just 20 minutes. I ended up spending about 1.5 hours on that bus. My best guess for this one, which is a very weird one, is somehow related to guardian angels, where this woman influenced the driver to drive in circles even though he wasn't supposed to. But it's all together very weird. What about the first bus that was correctly labeled and even indicated that it was going to Weylen, but then it didn't? It's like a dream, but you don't specify that you woke up later, so presumably this really happened to you, but I'm not sure. Some guardian angel event where she was trying to protect you from something, but how she could influence the first bus, how the second bus driver was driving in circles when they weren't supposed to, what was the protection from? I mean, it may not be related to that at all, I don't know. Not sure about this one. Very strange. Case file number 3236, written by Hellborn Elf Child. Our house now. Visiting home on break from college, and my stepbrothers had the bedrooms, so I was sleeping on the couch. My cat with me, as he always does. In the middle of the night, my cat jumps off my chest, which causes me to wake up. I then watch him do a slow crawl all around the entire perimeter of the house, focusing mainly on the kitchen, heading upstairs and then back onto the couch with me, where he proceeds to stare into the kitchen and growl a slow and quiet growl. I found it odd and then fell back asleep. The next morning, my mother told me about the dream she had the night before, where she was sitting at our kitchen table with her mother, who was dead, telling the former resident, an old man who committed suicide in the kitchen after his wife died, that the house was ours now, and it was time for him to leave us alone in it. All spooky shenanigans ceased from that day forth. Normally I would brush off either of the two incidents, but their happening at the same time has always creeped me out to no end. Case file number 3237, written by PB Honey Oates. The Pajama Paradox. When I was in university, I had to take an aquatics credit, so I took a swimming course. I had a black, full-piece Nike bathing suit that I wore to this class. This class was twice a week at 8:30 a.m. It was my first class of those days. One class was rescheduled to start a bit later in the morning. I don't remember the reason, but I set my alarm and woke up at the time I would have if it started at 8:30. I got up and dressed in my bathing suit, but then realized I could actually sleep in another 30 minutes or so because I remembered the class started later that day. So I took the bathing suit back off, put my pajamas back on, and crawled back into bed to snooze for a while longer. When I woke up again like 30 minutes later and went to put my bathing suit back on, it was gone. I was scrambling around my room trying to find it because I knew I literally just put it on. It wasn't anywhere in my room. It wasn't hiding in my sheets. It wasn't in my backpack. It was completely gone. I never saw that bathing suit again. Case file number 3238, written by Mr. Midnight. Heaven has highways too. When I was 3 years old, my grandmother had lung cancer. I was way too young to know what was going on. My mom told me this story. Apparently, it was late at night. I was asleep in my room, and had been for a few hours. My parents on the other end of the house get the phone call that my grandmother passed away. Half an hour later, I woke up screaming and crying. My parents ran in and asked what was wrong. I said, "Grammy went to live with the angels." I'd always thought this was just a story my mom liked to tell. She sometimes embellishes. I just shrugged it all off and let her tell it. People liked it. Then it happened again when I was 19. This time my grandfather was in the hospital for a back problem. He was doing really well that day before he was to be released. He was walking around, giving chocolates to the nurses, and even watched his favorite movie, Lawrence of Arabia. He went to bed that night and had a heart attack in his sleep. No one saw it coming. I remember my dad calling me at 8 a.m. in the morning to tell me he had died and I should come to the hospital. Just before my dad woke me up though, I had been dreaming my grandfather and I were in an old red convertible Cadillac El Dorado, cruising down a desert road. Neither of us said a word, just looked straight ahead and listened to the wind. It felt very emotional. When I went to the hospital and told my mom this, she said he used to always talk when she was young about wanting to rent a convertible Cadillac and drive down Route 66 before he died. I still get really choked up thinking about it. Case file number 3239, written by Delicious Murder. The Gospel Gas Station. Years ago, my then boyfriend, now husband, and I went to see a movie. He had had major surgery several weeks before, and this was his first trip out to do something other than see a doctor. On the way home from the theater, it was foggy, hard to see the road. I was driving a Saturn with a gas gauge that would go from half a tank to empty out of nowhere, unpredictably. We ran out of gas on some back road surrounded by nothing but trees. He had left his cell phone at home. Mine died in mid-call to a friend asking him for assistance. Your typical horror movie setup. It was decided that I would start walking, and my boyfriend would remain in the car, as he was still recuperating from surgery, and not in the best shape to be wandering down a desolate road at night, alone. Not that I really wanted to be either. I had begun to walk and had only made it a few steps when a car pulled up behind us. 3 guys and 2 girls got out and asked if we needed help. My boyfriend and I explained that we ran out of gas, and then the group offers to drive me to the nearest gas station while one of the dudes from their group stays with my boyfriend in the car. I was really nervous about getting in the car with these strangers, but felt that I had no other options at this point. They said they were out of town and didn't know where the closest gas station was. This is before GPS, iPhones, etc. Reluctantly, I climb in the back seat. They are nice enough, making small talk. Then the dude in the front passenger seat turns to me and says, "Can I ask you a question?" Oh fuck, here it comes, I'm thinking. I'm trying to figure out how to escape quickly, eyes darting the car. "Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior?" Well, that caught me off guard. The rest of the trip, they tried to convince me to join their ministry that travels the country and tries to convert people. They paid for my gas and gave me an extra $20 on top of that. When I get back to my car, my boyfriend looks extremely concerned and whispers to me, "Did they try to convert you too?" We then went and bought beer with the money. Okay, not a glitch, not supernatural, just funny and a point towards the good of humanity. I do read a fair few creepy stories where it's just people being people, nefarious, malevolent, and deceptive sometimes, or just outright evil. But that isn't all humans. Sometimes people are just good. And it is an interesting strategy to go around, roam around the countryside, helping people, and then try to convert them. I mean, it's not the worst strategy I've ever heard of. Case file number 3340, written by Mayor 2600. 3 miles later. I remember one time, I was driving home from band practice when I was about 17 years old. It was around 12:30 a.m., and I was really tired. I usually attribute this story to my exhaustion, but I have a hard time believing that. I am driving down a pretty desolate main road, and as I am driving, I notice an old woman walking down the right side of the road. She is wearing what looks like a brown ragged dress and is using a cane. I thought it was the most bizarre thing to see at 12:30 a.m., but I had just ignored it and kept driving. The weird thing is, about 3 miles later, as I am driving, I see the exact same woman. I get chills just thinking about it. I see her clearly, so I slow down a bit to make sure she's real and I'm not going crazy. Sure enough, as I get closer, it's the same woman in the same dress with the same cane. Then, suddenly, as I pass, she turns to my car and reaches her left hand out towards my car. I don't think I've ever driven so fast home in my entire life. Okay, so initially I just thought space-time portal, pretty standard. But why would an old lady be walking in her 70s and reach towards your car door without saying a word, at night? Yeah, this one must be a spirit, right? It could even be astral projection. Maybe for some reason, this woman just really wanted to get out. Maybe she's in a nursing home and can't really walk well, but she projects her soul out, and the soul part of her can experience it. Interesting. So maybe not malevolent, just trying to cure herself from itchy feet by being too lazy. You ever get that where you're just sitting too long and you have to stand up and walk just to stretch your feet or something? I get that often. They call it ants in my feet. And I imagine I'd still get that even if I'm old. So, yeah, probably astral projection. Case file number 3241, written by My Dog is a Rhino, Where the Mountains Weep. I see weird crap at night all the time, mostly when I'm driving, but this time my friend was driving and I was in the passenger seat. We were driving back from a soccer game, and I saw this girl in pink rain boots with some pattern on them and a raincoat just standing in the biker's lane facing the traffic. Since we're driving through a slightly mountainous range, the other side of the bike range is steep and sheer rock that goes up for more than a few meters, i.e., the only way the girl could have gotten there was by walking across the road. As we get closer to her, I'm getting more and more apprehensive as it's raining and I'm not sure if my friend sees her. We drive close, she steps out by the car as we're passing and nothing. No bump like we hit anyone. Nothing except me having a mini heart attack. I look back on the road in the rearview mirrors and turn to look out the back window. No girl. Nothing. I'm not sure how much of it was my mind playing tricks on me, as it was nighttime, but I remember seeing her so clearly. Case file number 3242, written by Lamb Dark Knight, the Fedora Man. While I was still in college, when I was home for the summer, I'd sometimes suffer from bouts of insomnia, so I came up with several things to do during these times. One of these things was that I would dress up in a suit, tie, dress slacks, fedora, and go out to a semi-remote crossroads. It was one that was not lit at all, except for moonlight, and was mostly unused except for the occasional car. But it wasn't so remote that I would spend all night and not see a car. I'd park my car a little ways away, hike to the crossroads, and just stand there for a few hours. Whenever I saw a car approaching, I would light a cigarette and just stand calmly, the creepiest smile I could muster on my face, and I would just slowly nod to the people as they passed. Most of them sped up a little after they saw me. One time, a car pulled up, stopped, rolled down his window, and asked if I needed any help. I looked at him calmly and said, "I'm waiting for someone, but not you. It isn't your time yet," and then smiled to him. His window rolled up quickly and he sped off away from me. I like including these stories sometimes where it alludes to something glitchy or supernatural, but no, it's just a human being a human. And sometimes, yeah, like myself, people like to troll people, prank people. This is a pretty good one, especially that line at the end where you're just talking like, "We're gonna meet again. I'm not human. I'm something beyond human." Like you're the Grim Reaper or something, but you're waiting for someone else along the road. Yeah, that's well done on that. I commend you for your successful prank. Case file number 3243, written by Spinge Bowl, the voice overlap. One day, a few years ago, I was just sitting in the living room minding my own business while my mom and stepdad were chatting in the kitchen, which was separated from the living room by 2 walls in our old apartment, along with our 2 dogs. My stepdad is actually the owner of one of the dogs, a black hound named Nina, and he sometimes talks to her as if she was a child, like, "Hi Nina, how's your day been?" Anyways, they were just chatting normally, and I could hear them when my mom asks my stepdad if he wants some coffee, and he replies by saying something along the lines of, "No, thank you. I've already had some an hour ago when I went to the bar. Remember the one in the highway?" And he starts talking extensively about this bar, what he did there, and who he met. All of a sudden, while he's still talking, a second voice, which still sounds exactly like my stepdad, goes, "Nina, look, it's Mom." Probably referring to my mom. All the while, the first voice was still in the middle of its tirade about the bar on the highway. And then, complete silence. Both voices stopped talking. I got up, completely freaked out, walked to the kitchen, and there they were, the both of them, just sitting there without saying a word. "What the hell was that?" I exclaimed. They had no idea what I was talking about, and to this day they still don't. This is one of 2 very strange glitches in the Matrix that occurred in my life, and they both involve my mom somehow. So, I'll just go ahead and assume that she's some kind of witch or time-manipulating entity. Case file number 3244, written by Bright, the Tuna Incident. It's a normal summer day, and me and my sister are home alone. I think it was during the summer holiday. My dad had left to go to the store and was gone for a couple of hours. I'm in my room gaming, and my sister is in hers, when all of a sudden, my sister calls me and tells me to come down. My room is in the attic. I get down and ask her what's wrong, and right in front of her room, there's a little pile of what seems to be cat puke, laid down in a perfect circle. After closer examination, it turns out to be Tuna. She asks me why I did that, and I tell her I'd been in my room for the last 3 hours straight, bad gaming habits, and hadn't come out. She tells me she heard me going up the stairs, note only up, and I tell her I didn't. Ask her what exactly she heard, and she says she heard someone heavier, which is ironic because we both weighed exactly the same amount, and neither of us are heavy, coming up the stairs, wearing heavy shoes. We have wooden stairs on which you can hear a lot. I told her it surely wasn't me, and we were kind of creeped out. I started to check all the rooms, closets, under the beds, everything, because I believed her, and I also recalled hearing someone coming up the stairs. I found nothing, but she was still scared crapless, so I waited with her downstairs in front of the TV until my dad came home. When he came home, we explained what happened, but he didn't have a clue, and he was also kind of weirded out. So in conclusion, all weird things together were the Tuna, in the perfect circle, the mystery sound of someone coming up the stairs, not down, and us being home alone. I'm still waiting for one of my friends to come clean and tell us he trolled us, because our front door is always unlocked and anyone can walk in whenever they want if someone is home. This event happened a little under a year ago, and I'm obviously still living in the same house. 2 minutes ago, my sister came home from school. I'm having finals, so I'm home studying, and she asked me why I didn't clean up after myself, and I asked her what the fuck she's talking about. So she takes me down the stairs to show me a big stain of tea or something that's been spilled there, and neither me nor my brother have had tea all day. I've seen the stain when walking the stairs, but assumed it was him, and he assumed it was me, so neither of us bothered cleaning it up. I might want to go check my cupboards. Case file number 3245, written by the 8th Henry, a friend from Florida. My grandmother is in a nursing home after suffering a stroke a few months ago. Mentally, she is all there. However, her one side is partially paralyzed, and she is in rehab in the nursing home. She's been weakened by the relative lack of activity though. On Sunday, as we were getting ready to go visit her first thing in the morning, as we always do, we got a call from the family of her old best friend. The friend had moved to Florida about 10 years ago, and they had gradually lost touch, save for a Christmas card every now and then. Well, the friend had just died very early that morning, and they were calling us to inform us of her death. When we got to the nursing home, we signed in and noticed we were the first visitors of the day. We went to my grandmother's room and said hi. We also have a little visitor's book for people to sign in her room, so we know who has visited her. Nobody had signed it since last Saturday morning. As we walked into her room, she exclaimed, "Oh my, so many visitors this morning." We asked what she meant. She replied that she had gotten a visit from an old dear friend that morning. It was a friend from Florida who had just passed away. She had told my grandmother that she was going away for a while, not to worry, that she would be watching out for her, and that they would see each other again. My grandmother also remarked at how healthy she looked. I've never had chills run down my spine like that before. Later I asked if anyone had been to my grandmother's room that morning, and the staff said no. We asked if any phone calls had come through for her that morning, and they again said no. They also log phone calls for residents, and when they checked the logs, there was nothing that they had forgotten. I also this morning called the family of the friend in Florida to offer my condolences and asked if they had called anyone else around here. I asked under the guise that I would help notify people around here, so I didn't want to double call people. They said we were the only ones they had called from around here, and the only reason they called us is because they thought my grandmother still lived with us. They had no idea until I told them this morning that she is in a nursing home. I know it's in the realm of reality that she could have simply dreamed it, but the chances of her having a dream like that with that sort of message on the very morning that her friend died are so remote that it still gives me chills. Subconscious information, probably in a dream format. I don't know how she heard of it, but one way or another, her subconscious mind picked up information that she couldn't possibly have had any other way. I like how this eliminates basically every possible method for her to have gained this information. There's no other way. She doesn't have a cell phone, presumably. So yeah, there's no other possible way to gain that information from means that we can detect anyways. The subconscious transmission, that we can't detect. Not yet. Now time for the jokes of the day. I asked my phone, "Siri, why am I so bad with women?" She said, "I'm Alexa, you moron." You know, Siri and Alexa, they do have a certain attitude to them. They have a sass. Took my kids to the zoo, and my son saw a tiger sleeping. I told him it's a Himalayan tiger. My son asked me how do I know. Because Himalayan right there. My father used to say, "Son, when one door closes, another always opens." He was a great dad, but a lousy cabinet maker. Told people I was dressing up as the Invisible Man for Halloween and not to worry if they didn't find me at work. It means my costume is working. Solid strategy. I killed 8 zombies, 9 vampires, and 3 witches yesterday, but for some reason they kept dropping candy. Oh, this is a darker one. Damn. I mean, human piñatas? Video up here, YouTube thinks you'll like it, check it out. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Okay, see you next time.